I did not actually find my purpose up until a few years back. Sometimes you lose your identity because you are so focused on being a mom, being a wife, and you don't know who you are. I was so scared because maybe that's how I've been brought up, with this whole being subservient, my culture. I started getting these perimenopause symptoms that were quite debilitating, as far as I wasn't able to function properly. I wasn't able to focus. I wasn't able to work. It was just took over my entire life for almost like a decade.
Living boldly with purpose. And it's so neat. Anita, I get so excited when I do these shows because I get to talk to real people who are doing real things that are helping people. And somehow we figure out how to break down the facade of, I got to do this to achieve, or I want to, hey, if you're going to make $1 million, you got to do this, this, and this. And it doesn't really, our show rarely goes into, this is what you have to do if you want to be successful. It goes into, this is what I've done. I've been successful at doing what I've done, and I'm helping others be able to do it. Because when I think of living boldly with purpose, I really think of, I don't know if you can live boldly and be in purpose if you're not serving others. I think it's impossible to do that. And so I'm excited to talk to you for a couple of reasons. One reason is I have another podcast called Journey to Freedom. And that's where I work with Black men, and we work on getting unstuck. And so I specifically in that podcast really work with, we've done 175 episodes where we found a successful Black men who have, through their journey, been able to become successful in a country that sometimes, makes us feel like we're not enough, or we're not good enough, or we're not good. And so why I'm so excited about Anita, because she's doing stuff with women. And so I feel like I'm over here on the men's side and she's over here on the women's side, and we get to come together, and I can't wait to compare notes, because I know there's some things that you're doing that I probably should be doing. And maybe I can share some of the things that I've been doing as we go through it. And so Anita shared with me that she was from India and spent some time in her childhood in India. I'm going to let her get into her story a little bit, but has come here and made an incredible life for herself, and has been able to give back to the community in ways that we can't even imagine. And it was even fun to talk to her as we talk. We call the green room, or whatever that's what I guess actors call it when we talk beforehand. But she spent time when she was in college in the city my daughter lives in now. And so just to be able to know and have that connection, I think connection means so much. When we're able to connect with each other, we're able to find common points in our relationship, then that relationship can thrive. And so, Anita, I'm not going to take a whole bunch more time. Amita, right? That's how I said. Yes. Much more time. Talking about me in the show. I want to hear about you and your story, and then we'll chop it up with, how you're doing, what you're doing with all the women you're doing with. I can't wait to hear it. And so, like I said, maybe just like I do with all of our guests, start with your story, and then we will just move forward. So the floor is yours. And believe me, it's hard for me not to interject in between. So I'm sure I'll do a little bit, but thank you for being here today. I just appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on.
No, thank you so much. I really like the name of your show, Living Boldly with Purpose. And I always wanted to do that. But, as I was talking to you earlier, you have to make a living, especially, in this country. You've got to stand up on your own. And I have an upbringing, with my grandparents. They were actually quite wealthy in India. And at the time, and my grandfather started with nothing on the street, and he made himself like one of the very influential persons in a small city in north part of India. And they always had a thing to give back to the community in those days. Giving back to the community was not even fashionable. And I learned so much that, there was always a purpose that when you're living your life, you need to not only make a living, but give back something to the community. I always wanted to do that. I did not know how, because you need to make enough money, or you need to be able to be independent, right? So this just happened in my life, like while I was working in these high tech, a corporate world, and I started getting these perimenopause symptoms that were quite debilitating as far as I wasn't able to function properly. I wasn't able to focus. I wasn't able to work. And it was just took over my entire life for almost like a decade. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. And at that time, I just wanted to survive. No, I didn't even think one day I'll be sitting in front of you right here, right? So 2, 3 years back, I thought, let me just go. I wanted to do something in holistic, and then let me go and talk to women and who are working in generally in the holistic space. And when I use the word holistic, means mind, body, and soul, diet, all these things. So I talked to about 3,000, 4,000 holistic experts all over the world, and majority of them were mid-aged women. And this whole perimenopause, menopause topic kept coming up all the time. And then, it just triggered my experience, what I was just telling you earlier. And I'm like, you know what? I never spoke up. I was not bold enough during those, the perimenopause, my perimenopause journey. I was so scared because maybe that's how I've been brought up, with this whole being subservient, my culture, Asian culture, all that, in my head, right? This thing is going on. I'm fear of being judged by others, all these things. And it just bothered me that I just kept my mouth quiet. And then I had adjusted myself according to what society wanted me to do. I ended up quitting my job. I should not have quit my job. I ended up doing consulting because I could not function in a corporate kind of not a 24/7, but beyond 9 to 5. And so 2 years back, I said, no, I'm going to go deep into this topic, the perimenopause, menopause topic, and see if I can make something out of it and empower other women who are behind me, who are younger than me, right? And who don't know and who are going to feel the same way I personally felt, because I had no one else, no one to tell me. And wherever I went, I didn't feel supported. I felt shame. I felt all those things. So that's a little bit of my story into what I'm trying to do now is empowering women, and really helping them live boldly with a purpose, and that's what I'm trying to do, is living boldly with a purpose by voicing all these topics that are typically slipped under the rug in any community, in any society. It doesn't matter if it's US or anywhere in the world for that matter. So that's sort of a little bit of a context.
Okay. Well, and you talked about all, I guess the mind, body, soul, and being holistic. Is that something that's part of culture, or is that part of, you came here and said Western medicine is stupid and it's not working, and we got to figure out, how to make this stuff work, because just taking another pill, that's kind of the journey I'm on right now with my diabetes and stuff, and I've been able to start reversing it based on stop giving me pills just to cover up symptoms. So as you're going through this, I mean, were folks trying to just give you medicine and give you stuff, or were you, like you said, a decade? So maybe kind of talk about that a little bit, how the holistic side of this jumped on you.
So actually, I on the contrary, I grew up in family of doctors. If you were not a doctor in our family, you were not no one. I mean, my extended family, I shouldn't use the word no one, but my extended family, everybody, majority of them, 90% of them are either doctors or surgeons. So in fact, medicine was like primo in the family where I grew up. It was considered like you are the most respectable. And I didn't want to become a doctor because I wanted to do, believe it or not, I studied architecture. I wanted to do something creative at that time. And everybody thought, oh, that's like baloney. Like, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to do anything. So I grew up with the pill in my, you're talking about the pill. Pill was considered very, kind of like, oh, you are a doctor. Oh my God, you take this pill and you'll be fine. So I always had that thing in my head. Oh, I could never become a doctor. I could never live up to the, expectations of my family. So the holistic thing was not even in my head. I always had this thing, oh my God. The holistic thing came to me. I personally started getting fatigued. when I was
Okay.
younger, in my 30s, and because I had jaundice when I in my 20s, and for some reason I had this chronic fatigue, and I must have gotten all kind of blood tests, all kind of things you can think of from all doctors. They could never find a reason. So that's when I started thinking of it. It came to me myself, fixing my diet, fixing my lifestyle, fixing my exercise. That's the time I started getting into all these holistic therapies like Ayurveda, like acupuncture. I started very young, and it was a self discovery. It had nothing to do with me growing up in India. In fact, it was opposite, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, people have now started talking about yoga and breath work and all those things. So it just started the same way the movement has started.
Okay. When when we talk about culture, and I'm not, I'm half African American, half Native American, and so I don't know a lot about culture in India. And then you're working with women. Was there a time where the like respect or anything wasn't like, hey, we want you to work with, you're too far out there, you're doing too much, or what was it like? Were those barriers or things that you had to work through in order to start helping based on cultural stuff, or was it just, hey, go do what you got to do to help people?
No, I never had a problem doing whatever I want to do. My family has always been very proactive women, a lot of women empowerment. My grandmom at that time, barely any woman used to go to college. She put all her kids through college. My parents and all that whole generation is highly educated. So I think that part was never an issue. The women. In fact, it was on the other hand, women should be equal. So from that point of view, I've never had any issue of, oh, I'm a woman subservient. Yes, the culture is based like that. You are absolutely right. But I happen to be very lucky.
Hey, it's Dr. B, and let me ask you something just here real quick. Are you tired of doing the same thing over and over and not getting the results you want? Are you serious about making some changes this year that will impact you in a huge way? Maybe you're putting out content right now and it's not turning into customers, or maybe you're uploading videos, but you're not sure why or how it's even going to help. I've seen a lot of people that are making a whole bunch of cold calls to the wrong people, and no one's answering. No one wants to talk to you. It might just be that you're just doing what you've been doing and crossing your fingers, hoping it finally works this year. But let me tell you what, that is not a strategy, and it will continue not to work. That's why I created the Podcasting Challenge, and it's coming up fast. In just a few days, I'm going to walk you through the mindset, the tool set, and the skill set you need to create a powerful podcast. That's right, a podcast. You won't believe what a podcast can do. One that builds real value and creates new clients. And if you grab a VIP ticket, you'll get to join me for a daily Zoom Q&A sessions where I'll personally answer your questions and help you tailor everything to your goals. This is your moment. This is your year. Go to thepodcastingchallenge.com right now and save your seat. The link is in the show notes and the description. Thank you for watching these podcasts. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Growing up in a family where the education was considered like you need to be. So that part was, in fact, I was quite shocked when I started observing other families and the other community, how women are treated and how women are second-class citizens. It was never that part never existed in the family that I grew up in.
Well, and then I can also say, because you went to school in Berkeley, so the whole Northern California is, you are not going to mess with me. I'm going to do what I need to do. And you're going to make this happen in a big way. Now, you did talk about doing corporate and that kind of stuff, and it just not being what you wanted to do. When I talk about purpose, how long in your life? I mean, did you already know your purpose when you were young at Berkeley doing stuff and thinking this is what my purpose is going to be? Or was it because this isn't working, I hate what I'm doing, let me try to find something? And because there's so many people that listen that say, I haven't found my purpose yet. I don't know how to find it. And maybe you can kind of talk about your journey to finding, because you're doing exactly what you want to do now. But it doesn't. I don't think you always did it.
No. It has been a lot of reinventing myself multiple times. Oh my God, it has been a very long journey. I should say that I started off at Berkeley studying landscape architecture and environmental planning and stuff like that, and urban planning. I wanted to revitalize and redevelop these Oaklands of the world and cities of the world, and I wanted to become like a very, have you read Fountainhead by Ayn Rand? So I wanted to be like, like changing the cities, so to speak, and being at level. I was so fascinated by some of these work that had been done by Le Corbusier, some of the very French architects. So I always wanted to change the landscape of cities, urban planning, make cities livable. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to make cities livable, walkable, not so dependent on the automobile, and how Europe is very well connected. So that's what I really wanted to do, that kind of a work in this country. But universe had something else for me, so I ended up reinventing myself and ended up in some in high tech. That's what happened. And when I was in high tech, I was trying to again discover myself. What is it that I can do to make an impact? And so I started working as a product manager for these big companies, creating interactive websites, so to speak, to create customer journeys and customer experiences. That was very interesting work, because you were really making a difference in people's lives, right? But it wasn't like, you're really saving lives, right? You're making these websites, yes, you tweak this, and now the engagement has gone up, or the bottom line it was more like that, right? How do you increase the average order size, e-commerce, right? So it was interesting, but that was something, not a purpose, again, a way to make a living and something interesting to do. So I did not actually find my purpose up until a few years back. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't find it. I just couldn't find it. It was hard for me to keep finding, and I kept going and going and going, and that's where I am.
Wow. I mean, it's so neat that you took the time to find, your purpose. And now that you get to do it, I'm sure there's nothing else you'd rather do.
Yes.
Right.
I wish I had this, I don't know, 20 years back. But like I told you, I went from company to company. I must have worked for like 15 companies, high-tech companies here.
Oh my God. Wow.
All over the map.
Yeah. Well, you talked about reinventing yourself. And so like one of the things that I try to do is help people become the person that they were intended to be based on what God put them on this earth to do. Like find what's in them, the creativeness that's in them, and let that spill out, which I think that you're doing now. At some point, you had to start working on you and not what everybody else was telling you to do. It sounds like your parents said and your grandparents said, this is what we want you to do, but you had to work on you. What were some of the things that you did that you think that helped you work on yourself so that you could become this person who's doing the thing that you're doing right now?
I just had to talk to myself, because I realized that I'm not like other family members, right? Like I said, most of them are accomplished doctors. And for some reason, I had this amazing creativity in me to create different things. And I always wanted to create something that's more creative. So I had to find myself. And, at one point I thought maybe I should become a fashion designer, that kind of craziness, right? Because I had that creativity in me to build, whether it's creation of buildings, whether it's creation of websites, whether it's creation of fashion, it's the creativity, right? So I've always had that in me, always. But I could not bring it to a point where it was like, okay, this is it. Like even at one point I created a e-commerce business for home furnishings. But it was more like an e-commerce selling furniture at the end of the day. It wasn't very creative, right? So like I said, it took a lot of iterations for me to come to where I am sitting today, because I tried e-commerce, I tried finance, the Walmarts of the world, the Western Union of the world, selling fashion online, selling interior design, or real estate online. I work for realtor.com. All these things I tried, right? I tried a lot of things to to really present myself to who I am. And this holistic thing came to me because, like I said earlier, in my 30s, I had this problem, the fatigue and all that. And I started eating fresh food. I started making a lot of adjustments to my lifestyle, my diet, all those things. And I happened to spend 4 years of my adult life in my 30s in India. That's where I got, that's why in between I went back to India for 4 years and I got Ayurveda in my life. And I think that's when I got very inspired by a lot of holistic therapies, and it made all the difference to my energy, to my metabolism, to my simple thinking, all these things. And I think maybe that was one thing that I had it in back of my mind to use these holistic therapies. And that's when this whole thing came together now, 2 years back when we started working.
Wow. Did you do the mom, wife thing, or did you just stay single your whole?
Oh, no. I am everything. Mom, wife.
Okay.
No,
all right. No, I just wanted to make sure before I start asking you mom questions and wife questions.
I am a mom. I'm a wife. I'm okay. Well, that's good, right? Because
it's very good. Family, right? Because you do a lot of things with family. It's hard to help people with family if they haven't had a family, right? I would think so. Maybe people are really successful at that. I happen to have a family, and I love my family, and and think that I'm a better dad because of other dads that I've talked to. But and the reason I ask you that is just because as you're going through this and you're figuring out who you are and figuring out how your purpose, how much did that play as a part of, hey, well, I gotta stop what I want maybe a little bit so that I can make sure I take care of my kids, and I may got to make sure that I help take care of my husband, and maybe it's equal and you guys are taking care of each other, but that's still time away from things that you could do. Like I sometimes I think it would be a boring life, but somebody who could just work all the time because they don't have any family responsibilities. So maybe just talk a little bit about how that's played, being that has played into you being able to help folks, because you are.
Yeah, no, I take being a mom very serious. For me, very serious. That was number one, actually, to be honest with you, because I just, I was growing up. I think I lacked confidence. I should say that, because I told you everybody was a doctor, and I always had this thing. Oh my God, I'm never going to become a doctor, and so I always lacked confidence. When I was growing up, I always thought others were better than me. For some reason, I always thought I was not good enough. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I always had that feeling. So with my kids, I never wanted them to have this feeling, because I grew up with that, and it took me, oh my God, so much time in my adult life to get over this whole thing. I'm good enough. And I think a lot of women have that. So being a mom has definitely helped me, because I put being a mom in front of me being me. You know what I mean? And I think it helped me become a better person, because I felt that with my kids, I was healing at the same time. Like I would tell them whatever, and I was also like a little child inside, and I was healing myself. If that makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Right? Like if you tell your kid, oh, you got to be confident, oh, you got to fight back, and I felt like I'm saying the same thing to myself, because I was so naive. It was like confident me as well.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense, because through them you are able to be stronger. You're able to, when they're young, you got to solve their problems for them, right? Even though you might be, well, I don't want to have this confrontation with the school administration, but because you're protecting your child, something else comes out of you that go, oh, I didn't know that was in me, as you're trying to do that. So that's really cool. So as you're working with like the women that you're working with, do you spend a lot of time talking about being a parent and being a wife, or is it just pretty much at this point in their lives it's just about them?
No, it's about them. It's not about me. The whole idea is, I just want to empower them. It has nothing to do with me. In fact, the work that we are doing, we are working with other experts, holistic experts like naturopathic doctors, dietitians, and it's all about empowering women. It's all about them. It has nothing to do with me. The work that I'm doing, you won't even see me. You only see me with you, but you don't see me talking to them at all. What we've done is leveraging all these experts to empower these women to wherever they are, meet them over there and help them guide through this journey. That's really what we are trying to do.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about empowering women,
mm-hmm.
If I have my definition of what I think empowering
mm-hmm.
is, and I think if we were to ask 20 people what empowering means, we'd all have different definitions. What do you consider, as you guys are doing your work, is the empowered to do what, or empower? Yeah, help me understand empowering.
So empowering, I just say, most of the time, it's a long answer. Women don't talk about their problems, right? I being one of the examples, I shared so many things that I would never talk about my problems, right? Women generally don't talk about, and they don't take care of themselves. Self-care, they think, is selfish, right? Mm-hmm. And also, knowledge, so many things, they just put everybody else before them. Like I was talking about being a mom. For me, being a mom was so important that I actually ignored myself, when I was much younger. So you really don't take care of yourself, and you don't have the time sometimes to have the right knowledge and also voice yourself with some of the topics that have stigma attached to it. Like, for instance, the topic that we are covering has a lot of stigma attached to it in the society, like perimenopause, menopause. You don't go around dinners and start talking about, oh my God, I'm going through perimenopause, menopause. But if I'm pregnant, I will say, I am expecting a baby, and everybody celebrates. Oh my God, what a beautiful thing, right? So we have in our society, all these things that's cool, that's not cool, and women feel, sometimes body shaming, right? When they're at this mid-age, they sometimes put on weight. They don't feel the self-confidence goes down, the anxiety goes up, the depression goes up, even the suicidal thoughts go up, and they think that they're alone. Nobody is there to help them. All these feelings, and even the loss of libido sometimes can happen, and that can create problems with their partners, or maybe go into a relationship issues of, I'm not saying they're getting divorced because of menopause, but there is that angle. So all these things, when you give them the right tools, right, to really voice what is going on inside them, you're really empowering them with the right knowledge, with the right tools, with the right courage to be who they are, not be scared, to be judged by someone else, not to feel, oh my God, I'm ashamed. So now I am XY, whatever is happening, right? So to me, empowerment is very, again, a 360-degree holistic, not just one thing that, oh, I know about perimenopause, now I'm empowered. No, you have to express yourself or live boldly, like that's what you're saying. They need to understand that they also need to live who they are, and which a lot of women, we don't, because we are so scared to express who we are.
Because when we talk about, or when you talk about, because it's hard for we to talk about menopause, because it's definitely something that I'm not going through. But what I can remember, like when my wife was saying she had this like internal furnace that was just, boiling her up all the time. And as a man, I would love, because you're empowering women to be able to speak up and tell. But from my perspective, I would love to know, a little bit of what's really, what's happening. I know there's changes that are happening physically in the bodies, and I'm not sure on the mental side of what's going on. But maybe you can just kind of educate me as a man, saying, okay, and this is how I should respond. Because my wife didn't go through your class, and so, she didn't, I don't know if she gave me all the right answers of how she was
Yeah,
empowered to tell me what I was
probably.
supposed to do. Yeah, I think we figured that out as we went through. But at the same time, I would love to just kind of get from you, what are some things that as a man that I could do to, I guess, encourage and help and not be a hindrance and not say something wrong and, or just run out the door and go to the, whatever that the men go with. Are trying to figure out how to make it work.
No, absolutely. I think from men's point of view, if they can encourage their partners to speak up as to what they're going and not hide their feelings, I think most of the women would hide their feelings, not tell their husbands or partners as to exactly what they're going through. And they want to maintain a certain kind of a composure as to who they are. That's what most of the women end up doing. They want to be super moms or super whatever and superwoman. I think they need to stop being superwoman and just be who they are and let their partners see the inside of it and seek help. Seek just be open about it in communication with your partners and or your husbands. That's what I would say. And then from the partners, from your point of view as a guy, you should encourage her to open up her whatever's going on, whether it's her thoughts, her mental thoughts, physical issues, or anything else, so that you can understand what's going on. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess, just kind of, hey, please tell me what's going on. And then if I say, well, how can I help? And they say, I don't even know. Say, okay, well, when we figure it out, let's figure it out together, instead of like, well, what do you mean you can't tell me? Because we want to fix. I mean, that's what men want to do, is we want to fix it. We want to make it okay, and not realizing that we can't make it okay. We just need to be there, I think is a huge part of it. And so maybe kind of walk me through some of the things that you guys do to help women. What are some of the, as you have this and this is your livelihood and what you do all the time now, maybe walk us through, like, for women who are watching this now, what is it they can begin to do, or what is it you can help out with?
Yeah. So like I said, this journey of perimenopause can be very confusing for women. That's before they hit menopause, right? So that can last up to a decade or maybe more, and that sometimes comes unexpected. So what we try to do is we try to help women who are going through this journey, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, walk them through this whole thing with self-care as a first step. We were talking about that. And with the self-care, they understand what is happening, with their bodies, with their mental health, with emotional health, and they can take some actionable sites. They can take some actions, like we give them a toolkit to change their lifestyle, or to fix their diet, or to take some of the other things we were talking about, for instance, breath work, meditation, hypnotherapy, aromatherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, of course, food as medicine, exercise as medicine, all these things combined, right? There's so many things. So that's our first step, is that when a woman comes to us and if she says whatever she's going through, let's say stress and sleep issues, then she understands a self-care journey. And then after that, if a woman needs, we offer guided journey from the experts. So then the price goes obviously to the next level. And that's when an expert, for example, a sleep expert or a stress expert, can go through, in a group coaching way, again, super affordable, to help women to understand what's going on and what can they do to go to the next level. And then the third level, what we have is, it could be testing, like some kind of a hormonal testing or a hair mineral testing or some gut, whatever different testing, that at-home testing along with the coaching you could do, or some kind of a coaching, one-on-one coaching, or you could do, let's say, one-on-one consultation with someone, that if you are not able to solve all these issues with yourself, with the self-care and other guided group care, then the next step we have is partnered with a lot of experts who can provide one-on-one coaching, one-on-one consultation, along with the testing, along with some of the products, all that. So it's a very comprehensive offering that we have developed. And even from the price point of views, we start with like $5. It's like, that's what I wanted to do, because that was my way of making an impact, a social impact. I was very particular about bringing the price down so much that every woman should be able to afford it. So that's what we have done. We'll start with like about $5, and then it's, I think, 50 and 100, and then it goes up after that. So there's a progression going into what a woman can afford, and most of the women in this country hopefully can spend $5.
Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of shocked me at the beginning of what you just said, because you said there's before menopause, then you get some more menopause, and then there's even ending some menopause. So it seems like it could take a long time to get through this whole journey. And then when I think about health, I think it's so cool that you guys are saying, okay, we're going to make sure you can afford this. Yes. But so many people say that I don't have the time. And it's not that they don't have the time, is that they don't know how to allocate the time. How do you help them? Because we get so busy in our lives, and we believe, and we put our health as the least thing we spend time on, right? But if we don't have our health, it'll take, our health will stop us from doing everything else, right?
You know what? I mean, I agree. Especially living in this country, or even any country for that matter, women who are working, they don't have time. But all I will say is self-care is not selfish, and you need to allocate about 15 minutes every single day to take care of yourself, because you don't want to end up in a wheelchair when you get to that age, right? And this menopause thing is not finishing. Once you reach a menopause, the rest of your life you are going to be in menopause. It's called post-menopause, and it has all other kind of problems that women can have. Just to give you data points, 80% of the women over 55 have one chronic condition. Most of the women end up with a chronic condition like diabetes, like osteoporosis, like dementia, like heart health issues, like cancer even, or metabolic syndrome. So you don't want to end up having those kind of things, right? So, or osteoporosis, I said that, and a lot of women end up in assisted care. So it is all related back to how well they take care of themselves when they are younger, when they're going through the perimenopause journey, because guess what? The hormones are the ones that are fluctuating, and they're getting depleted as we all get older.
Yeah, and I just see that so much is we don't spend a lot of time on our health. We spend a lot of time helping with identity. Identity is that thing that we say about ourselves, or we believe about ourselves, that make us interact with the world. And maybe even talk a little about like your identity in this shifts, because at one point you had an identity as a mom. At one point you have an identity as a wife. At one point you have an identity as a high-tech person. How has your identity shifted? And then how are you helping these women find an identity that isn't maybe, sometimes we're shamed so much, or, I can imagine you find women that have these low self-esteem, or these, maybe you have some that have high, but how do you help them with identity?
So it's important, right? Because as especially mid-age women, especially at this age group, we are talking about 45-year-old, or maybe 50, 55-year-old, somewhere over there, maybe younger. Sometimes you lose your identity because you're so focused on being a mom, being a wife, being a whatever, and you don't know who you are, right? So many women say that I talked to, like I told you, 3,000 women, and said, oh my God, I have to now make sure I do things that give me happiness. So I think what I would say is find something that gives you joy. It really gives you joy. If being a mom gives you joy, that's fine. But find something that gives you real joy, that you feel happy about doing that, and try to nurture that thing, because that's what you will put your heart and soul into it. And that slowly gives you feel proud of saying, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And that's what you start getting, to be who you are. And I think a lot of us lose ourselves to what we wanted to do when we were in our 20s, right? And now in our 40s or 50s, we forget who we were. So try to bring something that you wanted to do when you were younger and bring it out here. Mm-hmm. That could be a way to discover yourself, to your identity, because it happens to so many of us.
Gotcha. Are there any books or things that videos or things that people should look at or read, or to kind of help with that, or just kind of help with just feeling better about who they are? Is there some of those that have helped you, or is it just like going through your program and talking to the folks that the experts and the other people that you bring in? Is that enough, or does somebody have to do some more things on their own?
Always, I think working on yourself is not selfish. You should continuously work on yourself, invest in yourself. I always say that. But what we are doing, what we are trying to do is give women tools to not only the physical part, but also with their mental and the emotional part. So we are going to bring coaches to help with the identity, the low self-esteem, the career, and all those things. But hey, there are a lot of other powerful women out there. I mean, I take a lot of, I typically would read about all the women who have broken glass ceilings. I mean, the other day I've just watched HBO show called Hacks. Jean Smart is, I don't know if you've watched that. She got 3 Emmy Awards, and she's 73 years old. So I always get inspired by some of the women who are, be well beyond an age group and still kind of going and doing what they want to do. So I think I get inspiration from these kind of women, who are trying to do what they. So I think that's what you need to find. Some of that is what I would say. Find someone who inspires you. And this is just an example that I watched Hacks, but typically, I will follow some of the women who have been, necessarily CEOs, or they had to struggle so hard to be who they are against all odds. There's so many of them in today's day and age, who you can get inspired. And one book is not going to solve the problem, is what I'm saying.
There's not one, right? Or two.
Yeah.
It's a habit of reading.
Yeah. It's a continuous process. So I try to do that on a daily basis, follow along or listen to some podcasts of some of the women and what they're saying and how they were able to accomplish what they have been able to accomplish. It's not easy for anyone. For me also, it hasn't been easy. I had to keep inventing myself. And still I have such a big mountain to, continuously trek, right? It's not like I've reached the summit here, but it's always a process. It's always a journey. And so try to find your journey. What is your journey? Is it going to the meadows, or is it going to the Himalayas, or is it going to the desert? It is, everybody's journey is different. You just have to find your own journey and follow along and tread along and ask yourself, is that the right path you're following? And just, discover yourself.
Gotcha. You used the word reinvent yourself a few times in our conversation. I'm just wondering, maybe you can give us an example of what that means. Like, does that mean I don't like who I am and then I have to turn into somebody else? What does reinvent, and maybe give us an example of, for you, what that was like for you?
Yeah. For me, I'll just give you my example. So I studied architecture, like I said earlier. I went to UC Berkeley. And after that, when I started working, that was not something the way I thought it would be. Like I was told you, I had these high aspirations of Ayn Rand and being like an architect who creates these kind of things. It wasn't like that. So I had to go back again, change my profession from being an architect to being an environmental engineering. And then again, I went back and I was started drilling, believe it or not, the oil drilling in Hawthorne in the middle of Nevada. And I hated it. I'm not that kind of a person who can go in the desert and start drilling. I am not. I'm sorry. I that's not who I am. And I'm like, oh my God. And they said, no, you have to go on the site, and you have to, that's what environmental engineers most of the time go. They have to go on the site. So again, I had to go back and say, this is not what I want to do. I taught myself some of the new things. I ended up in a fab, semiconductor fab and for National Semiconductor. And then again, I had to wear a suit, the bunny suit, and go in the lab. That was against not me.
Yeah.
So again, I had to teach myself software, and I ended up being in the software world. So that's what I'm trying to say. And then after that, I started in e-commerce selling home furnishings. And I again had this idea, oh my God, it's such a cool thing. I'll be going to Milan every year, be a creative person, and be part of this fashion, not, home fashion shows, and which happens. But, so all those things, that's the kind of rethinking, reaching yourself. That's what happened in my life. I had to change that at least 7-8 times to where I am today. And that's what I'm saying. Don't get stuck. And sometimes you get stuck in life and you don't want to say, oh, this is it. But you have to keep, universe is trying to tell you something, right? That listen to the cues, and keep changing yourself. Does that make sense? I mean,
it makes, and I thank you for sharing that, because it makes so much sense. Because what I'm hearing, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, is you're not saying you had to give up on your dreams in order to reinvent yourself. You're saying that as I was finding my purpose, I went through all these things and I tried all these different things. Because I think, like you said, some people get so stuck in, well, I did this, I guess this is my lot in life, I have to stay here. And you're proof, no, I don't have to stay here. I'm going to continue to pursue whatever it is that really God has for me. And I'm not going to just go through this, I guess, the day by day mundane, I hate this. You're willing, do you believe that you ever gave up your dream or anything? I don't think you did, but, is that something that, you thought, oh man, I don't get to have my dream now? Because I know your dream was architecture at some point, but you're doing something now that's maybe even impacting more than just the beauty of what a plant could look like on a city park.
Exactly. Yeah. So, if I had gotten stuck at that time, no, that's all I wanted to do. I would be sitting in some kind of an urban development office and, doing some parks and things like that. And maybe that doesn't have as much of an impact. Like you were saying, the impact that the work that I'm doing now, right? It's actually really impacting women's mind, body, and soul, literally like that, So don't give up your dream, but find, just listen to the cues what universe is trying to give you. Universe gives everyone a cue. I'm telling you, you have to listen to up above. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in something up above. Something is there. It gives you something. Follow along, and I think you'll find your way.
Something greater than you that is up there guiding the world.
Something is there that's trying to tell you something. You just have to follow along and be open about it. And that, I think that's one of the things that I would say that I have been open about. It was not an easy journey for me to keep changing like this, but I have been open about it, and I've been continue. Just keep going.
Gotcha. So you went through these stages of menopause, and you seem like you were a very happy person. Maybe kind of talk to me about your day. Of like, what is your day like? What is it that gives you joy every single day? And when you put your head on the pillow at night, I can't imagine. It's just, I'm glad I'm not going through that no more. I think that you probably found as a result. Maybe kind of talk about what that day looks like.
Yeah, I think so. I have a very strict daily routine that I follow. I think that gives me. That's why I think I've been able to very happy, and you see the joy, on my face, is that I spend a lot of time taking care of myself. I think self-care is something that's very important to me. So I follow a very regimented daily routine, but that includes proper nourishment, meaning proper food, proper exercise, proper taking care of myself, whether it's my skin or hair or whatever. And also my relationships, I put in a lot of energy into my relationships, whether being a mom or a wife or whatever other relationship, as a sister, as a daughter, or as a friend. So I think all these things, if you bring all these things together, there's a lot of evidence that talks about the social part is important, your personal part is important, but the trick is to how do you bring balance, right?
Mhm.
And if you bring the balance, you will find joy, and that's how I feel when I sleep at night every single day. I feel that I've done something with purpose, and I'm not scared to talk about what I'm doing, and I'm doing it one step at a time.
You talked a little bit about, and I kind of keep jumping back to health because I think that's a lot of part of what you do and you help people with.
Mhm.
And you talked about exercise and you talked about the food that we eat and the things that we put into our body.
Mhm.
How are you helping these other women and helping yourself and through food and through making sure that we're not eating the stuff that truly, makes us tired, makes us our bodies not function right, make us kind of talk about some of those things maybe that you've decided are important. Have you given up the donuts every day and all that kind of
Oh
stuff?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's not even in part of my 100%. 100%. No donuts, no very little sugar, only natural sweetener, no sugar at all, no processed food, no canned food, fresh food every single day, fresh cooked meals every single day. Yeah, absolutely. You have to make that decision for yourself. And I tell you, it makes all the difference in your energy. I feel I'm more energetic, than I was when I was younger, believe it or not, because I was not eating right. Now I'm eating. Yes, you have to make a decision, and it's up to you. I can't force anyone. All I can say is for women to say, hey, this is what I have done personally. I have made these choices, and this is what the data talks about, right? We rely a lot on the research and the data, and it's up to you how you want to take care of yourself, not only for yourself but only for your loved ones. If you are not feeling good, guess what's going to happen to your family? They're not going to feel good either. So we don't live in isolation, right? We all live in a community, whether it's a family. And now and self-care is important, because I personally think if you don't take self-care, then you're being selfish. It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Right? Because if you're not taking care of yourself, guess what's going to happen to your loved ones? They're going to not be happy because you're not feeling happy. So take it very seriously. That's what I would say.
Well, there's so many things we can be distracted by, whether it is, all these, you walk in the supermarket and they're trying to give you everything food wise that is bad for you, right? You have to search for the stuff that's good for you. So we get distracted there. But I also think we get distracted in our society now by just all the information that is bombarded at us. I mean, we just all day long, whether it's on our phones, our devices, or we turn on our televisions, we do, people that we talk to, the sports events that we go to, just the things that we just have as a culture, I guess, bought into that this is what we need to be happy. And maybe when you're talking about, how do you help them avoid some of these distractions or eliminate or I guess curb down the amount of distractions that we have every day? Or is that even part of what you do? They just got to figure that out themselves.
No, everybody's to figure out the distraction part. I think everybody has to figure it out themselves. That's just part of life. All of us have distractions. It's hard to stay focused in such an information overload and information kind of pointing at you from 10 different angles. It used to be like, okay, email. Now we have all these social channels and all kind of things, right? Talking to us. So it's hard to stay focused, but that's just, that's the world we're living in.
If you have something that you're trying to focus on, it's easier to have those distractions not be part of it. But I just find that there's so many people that they are, whether they're just caught up or they've become like, I'm addicted to the news. I got to watch the news, 5 or 6 hours a day. But it's not the good news, right? It's the bad, negative news. And then you're putting that into your mind, into your body. And I think of it almost as like eating some bad food, because it can't be good for your psyche to worry about problems all over the world that you have no way of solving, that you have no way. And then in your own backyard, you can't solve those because you're so worried about things that are happening over there. And I don't know, is that enhanced during menopause and stuff, where you feel the world more or emotions more, or is it just Now you're just worried about your body and how to feel. I'm just trying to
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, but I can just share my experience. I mean, I generally, was not really, I mean, I do read the news. It's not like that. But I think you do go through more emotional outburst when a woman is going through perimenopause, menopause. There could be mood swings. Suddenly you start crying. Suddenly you're happy. Suddenly you're like a volcano of anger. All those things can happen. I mean, I'm telling you, I was such a naive person. I was barely a vocal person. And suddenly those words were spewing out of me. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know this side of me existed, right? So I've heard that a lot of women talk like that. So I think it depends on a person to person. It depends on who you are and where you find your balance. You need to find a balance, right? So what is it that you have to do that you can find your balance? That's what I would say.
Something interesting you just said that just piqued my mind, and is you said you read the news, which means you get to pick which part of the news you get instead of the news being fed to you, which I think is a huge distinction. If we just turn on the TV, then or go through our scrolling, then we're deciding what somebody else decides we want to hear. Where you pick and choose, I read the news. I know, if this is a story I'm not interested in, you don't read it. So I think that's really cool. Thank you for doing that and just sharing that. What didn't we talk about that you really want to make sure that our listeners here get to? It has been such a joy having you on the show and just hearing your heart and hearing what you.
No, thank you so much. No, I think we covered a lot.
But I could be better. Yeah, but what did we miss?
No, I don't think we missed anything. I think this is pretty good and within the hour. And, I'm happy to share our information if someone wants to check us out, if that's okay.
How do they get to you and how do they find you? Because they can do it for $5. I mean, I'm sure it's depending on what they can afford. But for those folks who are going, I can't afford this. I need the help, but I don't think I have the resources to be able to do it. You guys have found a way to make sure that it happens. So please share exactly how they can get a hold of you guys.
Yeah, so just go to www.nourishtalk.com. Everything we'll be posting when we release any new things. So that is our best source right now. We also would be posting on social and all the other social channels that we are on. So that would be the best. But that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. And I had such a good time and I learned so much, and I know, how to handle it. I have 8 children, so I have 5 sons and 3 daughters. So eventually my daughters will be going through, the way you say it, it's like half of their life, like pre-phase and post, but I'll be able to handle it a lot better based on, and now have a resource that they will be able to go to. Really? And so I thank you so much for just being on the show and spending time with us today. And so for those of you who maybe watch this for the first time, this is your first episode. We have so many good episodes that are just like this one that you can dive into. So hit the notification button so that you can get subscribed, however you guys do it in your social media world. And then go back and look through and see that, because I can promise you there's somebody that is in the same realm or has the same situation or that you can learn from that we've done podcasts with. And so, again, thank you, Anita, for being on the show and willing to talk to us and spending your time. Do you have one closing thought that you would love to share with everybody?
No, I would just say what I said earlier: invest in yourself and live boldly.
I love it. That's the thing. I love it. All right. Well, don't forget that your God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we will see you on the next one. Talk to you soon.